Will these melt your brain? Did you know it's actually an honor to get stung by a bee? The bee is actually ready to give up its life to be able to cause you just some pain. Shower thoughts. An inheritance is just your relatives dropping loot when they die. Making a typo in an online argument is the equivalent of voice cracking in an actual argument. An invisible man could have a perfectly happy relationship with a blind person. Expensive paintings are literally just trading cards for the rich. Nothing makes you sweat more than when you realize you forgot to put on deodorant. People who complain about not being taught about taxes in high school probably wouldn't have paid attention to it even if they offered that course in high school. Having someone's Wi-Fi password while over at their place makes it feel like home. Dogs hear us talk all day, but if we hear them bark for 1 minute, we tell them to stop. Isn't it adorable that any weird or embarrassing thing you do at home is considered normal by your dog because your dog doesn't know what humans actually do? Shower thoughts. As soon as you start having kids, you actually have to start asking your parents again before you can go out. The build up to Christmas Day feels a lot more like Christmas than Christmas Day itself. With how many streaming services there are, it's just a matter of time before everyone bundles them up together and it's cable again. Thrift stores will have a lot of YouTuber merch in 10 to 20 years. High school is like the free trial until graduation, and then afterwards they're gonna ask you to pay $50,000 to continue. There are probably a lot of parents out there that think their children are picky eaters, but the reality is the parents themselves are just horrible cooks. It's good to know that when I have kids, I'll understand that they can't pause an online game. If you really think about it, you've only opened your eyes once more than you've closed them. Shower thoughts. People often talk about starting a family, but they never talk about finishing one. Your boring job is probably the dream job for someone else. You can kiss yourself in the mirror, but only on the lips. Childhood is just slowly learning everything that is wrong with the world. Wearing sweatpants either makes you look athletic or lazy. Someone can be so rich that if they lost 94% of their entire net worth, they'd still end up with almost $1 billion. A skirt can be considered a pair of shorts for a person that has one leg. One of the advantages of being tall is that you can easily fold large blankets. Everyone talks about how numbers can get infinitely bigger, yet no one talks about how they can get infinitely smaller. Why is it that everyone cares about how every snowflake is different, but no one cares about how every potato is unique? Shower thoughts. If you earn the title the oldest person alive, basically get to keep that for the rest of your life. If you think about it, unborn babies are the only people allowed to kick pregnant women. If I were a ghost, why would I haunt someone? I'd rather go explore parts of the world I've never been able to explore before. One of the biggest scams in life was your mom saying she won't get angry if you tell the truth. The guy that ended the life of Batman's parents actually ended up saving tons of lives. You know you've made it in life when your couches aren't up against the wall. Having a clear toothpaste tube would make so much sense and probably help out a ton. You don't realize how loud normal everyday activities are until you try doing them at 3 a.m. in a sleeping household. I bet you haven't thought about how you can't get in a store and buy clothes if you don't already have clothes. Shower thoughts. There is food that's best ate with a fork and a plate, spoon in a bowl, and a fork in a bowl. But there's like no food that needs a plate and a spoon. The only thing people hate more than routine is having the routine disrupted. No matter how cold it gets in the winter, there's always going to be that one person that is still going to wear shorts. We put an incredible amount of trust in oven mitts. Asking who you are sounds polite from a stranger but cool from a loved one. You almost have no control over your middle toe. Google Earth has so many images of people that they don't even realize that even you could be on there. If you think about it, if dogs are able to see ghosts, then the reason they hate going to the vet is because they're able to see all the animals that passed away there. Shower thoughts. Smartphones are probably solely responsible for decreasing the amount of graffiti in public bathrooms. Normally you empty your drink from the top, but if you use a straw, you empty it from the bottom. I wish I was as fat as the first time I thought I was fat. You never realize how much your head weighs until you're resting it on someone. Given how much your character probably dies in video games, in most timelines the villain wins. Most people's way of flirting is just looking at the person they're attracted to and hoping they come up and talk to you. The probability of something happening is always either 100% or 0%. So it's basically a 50-50. Isn't it funny that girls are so used to compliments that insults stick out to them, but guys are are so used to insults that compliments stick out to them. Shower thoughts. Isn't it awful to think no matter how good of a person you are, you're the bad guy in someone's story? Isn't it funny that the larger the download button, the more sketchier it seems? Your eyeballs will probably never touch another eyeball. Isn't it frightening in 30 years, Snapchat and TikTok will be seen as old people apps? I mean, it happened to Facebook in like 5 years. Rosa Parks lived long enough to watch the movie Shrek. If you see a picture of a dog or a cat from around 10 years ago, that animal is probably dead, unfortunately. You're probably not afraid of heights, you're just scared of falling from them. For some reason, things almost always work out when you're rich, and things almost never work out when you're poor. Shower thoughts. Good drivers miss their turns more often than bad drivers. Did you know since carbon dioxide is denser than oxygen, we lose weight when we breathe? Most of us have dead bodies in our refrigerators, they just aren't of people. People often love the memory of someone or the idea of someone more than the actual someone. One of the quickest ways to lose an overabundance of faith in humanity is to work in customer service for a week. It really feels like the purpose of life is to avoid suffering long enough to hopefully die without much pain. Selfies are meant to be seen, but they're awkward when someone sees you take them. How come skeletons in movies never have scoliosis? Shower thoughts. Serial killers must really love the self-checkouts at hardware stores. No one in any movies or video games have any health issues unless it's important to the plot. McDonald's french fries go from insanely good to just mid in like 20 minutes and then they stay mid forever. You don't really see an old cow because they die at a young age just so we can have hamburgers. As you are breathing right now, some other person is breathing their last breath. Why do people recognize false rumors about themselves, but if they hear false rumors about other people, they believe them? Cars are not supposed to touch anything other than the road. Eventually, the number of dead people's social media profiles will outnumber the ones that are living. If Bill Gates decided he wanted to spend $1 million every single day, it would take him 218 years before he would go broke. How come we verify that we aren't robots to robots? Isn't it funny that when you're sick, the advice you get is to literally do drugs and stay out of school? Shower thoughts. If the whole world were to pass away right now, the internet would just be filled with bots responding to posts and liking stuff. If you think about it, you've probably never seen your grandparents jump. The scariest thing that we could discover on another planet is humans. Reading minds would actually suck because if someone's depressed, you're gonna learn about their depression and why they're depressed, and then you'll become depressed. More and more kids are gonna grow up without being stung by a bee. Your future self is spying on you through memories. Your dog follows you to the bathroom because you follow your dog to the bathroom. No matter what calculator I'm using, I'm always hitting clear multiple times. Being scared of deep water is like being scared of heights, but in water. When you travel, people seem friendlier because you are more open to conversation with strangers. Our sun is a star in a constellation that we'll never see. Did you know you can easily tell if someone slept only 2 hours last night by how they brag to everybody about how they only slept 2 hours last night? Shower thoughts. For most of human history, everyone constantly smelled like a campfire. You can prove that you remembered something, but you can't prove that you forgot something. Waiting for the waiter makes you the waiter. Somewhere out there on someone's phone or camera, a picture of you exists. Not necessarily you as the subject, but you as some random girl or guy in the background. Someone probably has a crush on you without you knowing. The more you think about life in our society, the easier it is to become depressed. Everyone can agree that not everyone can agree on one thing. Would you watch a reality TV show where flat earthers try to find the edge of the world? Shower thoughts. Traditions are basically dead people peer pressuring us. The rich used to pay peasants to entertain them, but now the peasants pay the rich to entertain them. Standing next to someone who vapes makes you realize how much air you breathe directly from somebody's mouth. When we're young, we sneak out of the house to go to parties, but when we're old, we sneak out of parties just to go home. A chicken nugget is a meatball, and nothing can change that fact. Spiders living in a blind person's home have really hit the lottery. If you were an identical twin and your identical twin decided to get plastic surgery, it would be hard not to feel insulted. When you introduce two different groups of friends to each other, it's like your own life's own crossover episode. Isn't it kind of wild that we have an endless mental conversation with ourselves? Somewhere out there in the world, at least one person is having the best day of their life. Did you know we spend our childhood wishing we were older only to get old and wish we were younger? And also, there are two types of people in the world: those who stop the microwave at 1 second and those who need help. And if that doesn't help, just know going in and out from a convenience store without buying anything feels almost as bad as stealing something from it. Did you know that 1,000 terabyte hard drives full of data weigh the same as 1,000 terabyte hard drives with with no data? Shower thoughts. It's not that everything was better when you were a child, it's just you didn't have to deal with grown-up problems. A deaf person in handcuffs lost its right to free speech. Somewhere in the world lies a rock that has never been touched by a living creature. The world's best barber can only get the second best haircut. The more you enjoy life, the shorter it feels. Nothing lasts longer than when someone's showing you a video that you have zero interest in. Buying a wallet or purse is using your own money to buy something to place your money in, which was used to buy something that was used to place your money in. You have probably stepped on the part of the world that no one else will step on during your lifetime. What was the first guy who was trying to milk a cow trying to do? Shower thoughts. Isn't it absurd that the center of a dartboard isn't the highest value? At some point quite recently, we all decided that kitchen aprons just don't need to be a thing anymore. I mean, who do you see wearing one? You have probably inadvertently made hundreds, if not thousands of people decide whether to fart or to hold it in simply by walking past them. The sun has orbited the Milky Way only 20 times. The average human spends roughly around 24 years of their life sleeping. There's probably loads of celebrities online that you've interacted with without even knowing it. Unfortunately, the same probably goes for some serial killers and other criminals. Killer whales are just dolphins on steroids. Texting someone is kind of like a step backwards because instead of calling and talking to someone, you just write them a letter. Eating spicy food is socially accepted self-harm. What was the first guy who was trying to milk a cow trying to do? Shower thoughts. Isn't it absurd that the center of a dartboard isn't the highest value? At some point quite recently, we all decided that kitchen aprons just don't need to be a thing anymore. I mean, who do you see wearing one? You have probably inadvertently made hundreds, if not thousands of people decide whether to fart or to hold it in simply by walking past them. The sun has orbited the Milky Way only 20 times. The average human spends roughly around 24 years of their life sleeping. There's probably loads of celebrities online that you've interacted with without even knowing it. Unfortunately, the same probably goes for some serial killers and other criminals. Killer whales are just dolphins on steroids. Texting someone is kind of like a step backwards because instead of calling and talking to someone, you just write them a letter. Eating spicy food is socially accepted self-harm. Isn't it weird to think that the earth is naturally supposed to be nighttime, but it's only daytime due to the sun being so close to us? Shower thoughts. There's an exact date or point in time where you're gonna be just as close as you are from the day you were born to the day you're dead, but you'll never know what it is. English class is like a conspiracy theory class because they're gonna find meaning in literally anything. Having like 1 bar of Wi-Fi is kind of worse than having no Wi-Fi at all. It's not fair that coffee stains your teeth brown, but milk doesn't stain your teeth white. Parents begging for grandchildren have the same mentality as a child begging for a puppy. They want all of the cute with none of the work. If you take no one's advice, you're an idiot. If you take everyone's advice, you're also an idiot. Your barber knows the back of your head better than you do. After subscribing, tell me.